Spider-Man has appeared in countless comic books. The X-Men had interesting and deep stories, and Superman was a pillar of justice. Well, if you're hoping for a story about that, then this video is not for you. At the beginning of comic books, things were just a bit boring. They were just grids with 6 or 9 panels in each, with text underneath them in a yellow box. Nothing interesting, and it was always the same. Let me show you something just to prove that point. Here's my box that has pretty old comics. It has some 90s comics, but this is a comic that could have been around that era. I'd say this, or like definitely this one. I think is older. Here you've got little Comics Code Authority, so that's something. I don't know what exact period this comic is from, but if we look at the boxes, there's not as much things popping out of the boxes. Let me just find the good. That doesn't mean these are not good, but it just means they're a bit lack of creativity in the boxes. It's just all the same, look. So we've just got box. Well, this was all that until about the 90's, which is what we're talking about here, where something, let me just put this back in, where something peculiar, I could say, happens to comic books. They started to get cooler, I could say. Is this around that era? Because Venom, yeah, so it will be. Look at this Venom image, which looks cool. Probably one of the first Venom comics. And if you just look at the boxes in here, find a good example like this one, look. Characters are jumping out of the pages and there's more action. I think this overall looks better than what we saw earlier. Well, it's not because they weren't better artists. There were some great artists around in that time. Jack Kirby, Dave Buscema, John Romita Sr. But they didn't allow as much creativity with their panel layouts. And that's the first thing that I'm going to talk about here, the panel layouts. Then if I look at later comic books, like, well, Wildcats by Jim Lee, who's like master, he's one of the best comic book artists ever. And he sort of mastered the just enough things coming out of the box, cool angles and things to make it look cool, but still make it readable. So you've got here on this page how this isn't even in a box. This is all up the spine, and you can see that there. Jim Lee was a very in-house artist. He was like a golden boy. He was someone who was really big in the industry, and he was doing these experimental things with comics. And I think that's one of the big things about that type of art there. Yeah. But I know what you're asking. How did this change in art start? When did this change start? And I think I've got the answer. The answer is Todd McFarlane. Todd McFarlane is an amazing comic book artist just because of his panel layouts and his way of doing comics. But when he got first signed, he wasn't doing all this crazy stuff. His head just won't let him. And he says himself that he wasn't that good of an artist then. He had a degree in graphic design. So he brought graphic design to his comic books. He made Spider-Man swing and stuff. And he said just like, don't do that. Like, just do the grid like everyone else is doing. But then slowly, he was just selling more comic books, and he was doing this thing. And at one point, it was just like to the editors, I'm doing it, and it's selling issues, and it's being more popular than the standard house method. And I think that's where it started. They were like, oh yeah. So he was selling more comics with this method because it was new, and it was fun, and it was also like, fans could thought, what if Spider-Man's webs are like this, and what if that's like that? And he's doing it, so I think that's what makes him, what sort of brought in the change. And then other copy artists were following, like got Rob Liefeld, who did, let me just open this, who did Youngblood in Image way later in his career, but you can just tell in Youngblood how much it's inspired by Todd McFarlane's art. You know, so we got here, on the first page we've got like Shaft, who's the main character, doing some cool stuff. So this is very reminiscent of Todd McFarlane. Look, you've got Shaft in a Rob Liefeld comic. You've got Shaft, look, jumping out of the box. Same with like, well, I would say same with like Jim Lee, but Jim Lee was already a good artist, and he was just taking these methods and just applying them to his art. I would say that if you think about the 90s, the big three were Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, and Todd McFarlane. Todd McFarlane brought in this cool across panels thing. Then Rob Liefeld brought the action dynamicism, and then Jim Lee applied like good. Right, I was just fixing up the lighting there if it looks different. Jim Lee applied the anatomy and the just artistry to what these people had already came up with. So now I'm just going to take you and show you a look at these artists' first work when they just started and their latest works. So here is Rob Liefeld's Hawk and Dove when he first started at DC, and this is his New Mutants at Marvel in about 1980 to 19.09. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe because it helps my channel get out to more people, and I hope you liked it. Bye.